They whispered about her long before they knew her name. Elena, the girl with calloused hands who cleaned floors that never reflected her face, moved silently through the mansion on Crestwood Hill, a shadow among chandeliers and marble staircases that gleamed in the morning light. And him, Richard Hart, the man who owned the city from its tallest windows, yet could not buy peace, observed life from above, confident that no one could reach him. Their worlds were meant never to touch until one morning changed everything. Before we start, subscribe now so you don't miss more incredible stories like this one. Oh, and before we dive in, tell us in the comments, where are you watching this video from? We love hearing from you and always read every message. The mansion was a kingdom of wealth and silence, polished surfaces reflecting light but not warmth. Sunlight poured through towering windows, landing on gilded floors while shadows clung stubbornly to corners. The faint scent of roses from the conservatory mingled with polished wood and cleaning agents, creating an atmosphere both beautiful and suffocating. Elena's gray uniform did nothing to blend her presence with the grandeur. She was a small figure defined by her deliberate movements and soft, careful steps. Her hands were raw, skin cracked from endless work, yet her back was straight, her jaw firm. She carried more than cleaning tools. She carried responsibility, pride, and the quiet weight of her brother's care. "Faster, Elena. Mr. Hart hates delay." Mrs. Kellen's voice cut like a knife. Elena nodded silently, swallowing fatigue and fear. Upstairs, laughter and crystal clinking echoed. Investors, assistants, a man whose eyes missed nothing, Richard Hart, glided through the air of expectation, untouchable and formidable. Elena felt the weight of his gaze before he even looked her way. A quiet recognition of movement and intent she barely understood. Then it happened. A slip, a tray tipping, coffee spilling across the pristine floor. The room froze. "Who let her in here?" Richard's voice cut sharp as glass. I was just... I'm sorry, sir." She stammered, cheeks hot, heart racing. The investors laughed, sharp and cruel. One muttered, "You hire saints or ghosts now." Richard's gaze lingered, not with pity, but with intrigue. There was a storm in her eyes, restrained yet undeniable. She rose, tray in hand, dignity intact. But while the room laughed, the outsider's eyes shimmered faintly, as if holding a truth no one could yet see. The next morning, whispers trailed her like wind. The maid who spilled coffee. Curiosity, ridicule, and quiet fascination filled the halls. Richard called a staff meeting, everyone lined up, posture rigid, breaths shallow. "I've been told about yesterday's incident. Standards were not met." His eyes scanned the room. "But I don't want excuses. I want a test." He stopped before her. "Tomorrow night, a private dinner for investors. You will handle every detail yourself. No help. Impress me or leave." Gasps rose. Some laughter stifled. Elena's pulse raced, yet she answered firmly, "I'll do it, sir." A faint smirk crossed his lips. No one believed she would even try, but the silence that followed spread across the hall like fire. Dawn broke gray over the mansion. Elena arrived early, absorbing every detail of the kitchen, the clink of knives, the hiss of sauté pans, the warmth of ovens, the scent of roasting garlic and fresh bread. Years of cleaning had sharpened her perception. She noticed everything: the angle of forks, the placement of glasses, the rhythm of movement. She memorized, planned, and prepared, moving with quiet precision. She paused at the spice rack, inhaling the aroma of rosemary, thyme, and saffron, letting her mind map the flow of the meal. She rehearsed every step in her mind, timing each dish, each pour, imagining the skeptical expressions of the investors, and letting that tension sharpen her focus rather than weaken it. She thought of her brother, alone at home, and the sacrifices that had brought her here, feeling a quiet surge of resolve that steadied her hands. The sous-chef frowned, noticing her meticulous notes. "You think you can handle this alone?" he asked skeptically. "I have to," Elena replied quietly, straightening her back. "There's no other choice." Small setbacks threatened her composure. A tray wobbled, a garnish slipped, and a glass of wine trembled on the edge of a table. Her heart pounded, yet she adjusted each detail, breath by breath, letting each correction build her confidence. In those moments, she realized that her life had prepared her for this. Every early morning, every back-breaking task, every ignored warning had trained her to stay calm under pressure. Richard, from his office above, watched this unseen orchestration. He realized she was transforming the kitchen into a stage where she alone controlled every movement. Her quiet focus unsettled him, yet a small spark of admiration flickered in his chest. He noticed the way she tilted her head slightly to gauge light, how she tapped a knife lightly to test balance, the subtle nod she gave herself when everything aligned. He could feel the tension of her determination radiating, so unlike the polished emptiness of other staff he had long dismissed. Throughout the afternoon, Elena faced small disasters, a missing garnish, a pan that burned slightly, a wine glass chipped, but each time she paused, assessed, and adapted. The staff began to whisper in awe rather than doubt. Even the sous-chef, initially skeptical, found himself silently assisting, anticipating her intentions without her asking. For the first time, the kitchen felt alive, not chaotic. Elena allowed herself brief smiles at small victories, savoring the warmth that came from quiet mastery. She noticed the way the younger staff glanced at her with something between fear and admiration, as if hope itself had suddenly appeared in a uniform of gray. As night approached, Elena oversaw the last details. Candles were lit, soft music began to play through hidden speakers, and the mansion was infused with a sense of anticipation. She paused for a moment, breathing in the mix of scents: vanilla from the desserts, citrus from the salads, the subtle aroma of polished wood, and allowed herself a tiny moment of pride. She ran her fingers along the polished cutlery, feeling the cool metal, imagining the impact of every precise placement. She thought of Richard, waiting unseen, wondering if he would notice the care hidden in every gesture. This night could define her. She even allowed herself a quiet thought. Maybe, just maybe, someone would finally see her. Not just her work, but her worth. The doorbell rang. Investors arrived, curious and skeptical. Elena positioned herself at the head of the table, hands moving with precise rhythm, placing plates, pouring wine, serving dishes with elegance. Every gesture was intentional, a silent command of authority despite her role. Guests whispered, expecting chaos. Instead, they witnessed mastery. Mockery faded into awe. Richard leaned back, eyes tracking her movements. Her skill was more than ability, it was dignity. "You've surprised me, Miss Elena," he whispered as she returned the final plate. "You told me to impress you, sir," she replied, a serene smile lighting her face. The dinner concluded flawlessly. Applause erupted. Not for him, but for her. Her cheeks flushed with pride, eyes bright with disbelief, as the mansion subtly transformed. It wasn't just skill, it was dignity. And suddenly, silence fell across the crowd. Mourning brought tension. Rumors of Elena's past threatened to undo everything. "That's not true, sir," she said steadily. "I left my last job because the family went bankrupt. I was blamed for missing items I never touched. I was cleared, but no one would hire me after." Richard's expression softened. You think I'd fire someone who worked harder than anyone in this house? I've never pretended to be anything, she said. I just needed work. Her honesty hung in the room, stronger than any accusation. She had courage, dignity, and had quietly changed the man who wielded power over everyone. He looked at her, and for the first time, the distance between them did not feel impossible. But the final blow came not from power, it came from a truth everyone had tried to forget. Weeks passed. The mansion felt lighter. Elena continued her work, confident, no longer invisible. Richard watched, admiration growing quietly, noticing her soft smiles at staff, gentle guidance without condescension, and how her presence transformed intimidation into warmth. He found himself lingering in hallways, catching glimpses of her focus, marveling at how someone so ordinary could radiate extraordinary calm. He began noticing the quiet rituals she created, the careful folding of napkins, the soft patter of water in the sink, the faint hum she let escape while polishing silver, which somehow made the mansion feel alive, human. One afternoon, he approached as she arranged flowers, sunlight catching dust motes around her. You never stop working, do you? He said softly. Someone has to keep this place breathing. You've done more than that. You've turned it into a home. He handed her a small silver key, the long unused staff wing, now hers to transform into a study for workers. You inspired this, he said. Elena smiled, the key symbolizing trust, respect, and acknowledgement beyond words. And as she walked away, no one dared laugh again, for they finally understood what they had witnessed. Months later, the mansion glowed with life. The staff wing became a library and study room. The house that once intimidated now nurtured. Richard and Elena shared quiet moments, their connection deepening beyond titles or class. You never stop making people better, he said, and you never stop giving them the chance, she replied. They stood together, city lights shimmering below like hope. In the mansion, and in their hearts, something rare had been built. Respect, admiration, and love, not forced, but earned. In a world blinded by arrogance, sometimes a single act of quiet dignity is enough to change the course of a life, and even a heart.